Hi. I've been gone for a while. I didn't say anything, I just bounced. And in this video, I attempt to explain that and apologize for that. If I've made people feel abandoned, if I've hurt people's feelings, that was certainly not my intent. And I will use this forum to try to explain and process what goes on with me and why I behave that way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's completely golden. That means you're enjoying your life, and whatever I'm doing is having minimal impact on you, which is completely fine. If I did hurt your feelings or you did notice my absence, I'm trying to use this new forum as a way of processing. This is also a prelude to how I'm trying to process going forward and what I'm calling Sifting for Soul, the vlog. So welcome, and thanks for joining me on this journey. Hello. We haven't talked for ages, and I realize that's entirely my fault. So I wanted to explain my absence and apologize and basically take an opportunity to dialogue a little bit about how I operate. I struggled with forum for this. At first I started to write just like a brief note quite a few months ago about why I was being quiet, or where I had gone, or what I was thinking, basically to tell people I was okay. And then I never took action on that for a number of reasons, legitimate or otherwise, but just never took action on it. And then before I knew it, being just sort of quiet and reflective for a bit of time became quiet and reflective for quite a bit of time. And I wanted to address a few of those things. And so given the length of time, I feel like it has extended beyond that which is acceptable to write a brief note about. And so then I could either write a really long note, and I'm aware that my attention span isn't very long. And so perhaps your attention span isn't very long. And so I thought I would take this opportunity to do sort of, not really a dialogue because you can't talk to me now, but a monologue and explain kind of how I work. I want to acknowledge that my voice sounds different depending on how long this goes. I don't really know because, I'm just sort of talking here, but depending on how long this goes, my voice can sound either like I'm trying to get with you, or I've never gotten with anyone. And so I just want to acknowledge that I'm a bit under the weather right now. I'm in London, which is resumed itself as being my haunt, and the weather has been a little finicky, and there's lots of cooties going around, and I too have the cooties. Take refuge in the fact that apparently only political stupidity is the internet-born pathogen, not my cooties, so you should be safe, hopefully. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, meaning you haven't noticed that I've been internet quiet, completely cool. I'm really quite happy about that. And so you're welcome to watch this if you're deeply curious as to how I think about the world. But feel free to be like, this is boring, don't care, move on. Like, you don't need my permission to do that. It's not like I will actually feel you stopping the video or switching to something else. But, like, don't feel obligated to watch this on my behalf, is what I'm getting at. If you did notice my absence and you're particularly concerned, I am deeply sorry. That is not my intent. In fact, one of the ways my thinking is broken is in not being able to recognize that people want me around. I've come up in such a way, and at critical points in my life, my thinking has been shaped in such a way that it's very difficult for me to believe that anyone wants me around. When people invite me places, I legitimately believe that they don't want me to actually show up. And so there's quite a complicated internal struggle. And so I assure you, my silence wasn't some form or some tactic to manipulate you into worrying about my well-being. I feel deeply guilty because my life is so different now that it's absurd to me that anybody would worry about my well-being, because I'm quite capable of taking care of myself and make it a point to have positive people in my life. And things are much better than they've ever been. So I'm deeply sorry that my behavior has worried some people, because not the intent at all. To the questions. So why did I go, and why didn't I say anything to anyone? So the why didn't I say anything to anyone is probably easier to answer. I've repeated versions of this throughout my own life. I'm quite introverted, which should not be confused with socially awkward or uncomfortable. I'm perfectly fine around people and can talk to people, and I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy understanding myself better and sharing that with people. But I do find large group things to be rather draining, and thereby tend to avoid them. And so it doesn't energize me to talk in large groups. The one-on-one conversations, sure, they energize me, but large group conversations over time I will find quite draining. And when I feel a little bit beat up on my spirits, then I get quiet. Now, I can't always predict how long I'm going to get quiet. And when I get quiet, I get really quiet. Like invisible quiet. Like I go into autopilot and I do the things that I know how to do. I do my job. I punch keys on the keyboard and make the computer do all kinds of cool things and make the network cooperate. And I go through the motions around that which I am good at. And I avoid things that stir up complications for which I am not currently capable of dealing with. And unfortunately, that takes as long as it takes. It's not like a broken bone where the doctor will tell you that's going to heal in 6 to 8 weeks and you'll be as good as new. It's more soft tissue damage. It's more like a sprain where you think it's fine, and then you walk on it a little funny and it hurts a little bit. And so you go back in the cast and you ice it, and you soak it, and you take your time. And so it's a little bit easier to say why I didn't say anything, I suppose, because I didn't know that I was going to be gone. I didn't intend to be quiet. I didn't know there was something to be said. And then the other part, which I alluded to earlier, is that my brain is wired in such a way that it's not even going to occur to me that there's something to be said. If you, and this is sort of any of you, if you invite me somewhere, 90% of my brain is going to tell me that you don't mean it. You can invite me. The true story, this happened when I left Hawaii. Good friends of mine, shout out to Mike Baker if you're still my friend. Shout out to Mike Baker. I'm only laughing because I've been gone long and not everybody tolerates that very well. And so I should not assume that Mike has tolerated this. But Mike organized a party, a going away party for me, and I didn't show up. And not because I'm a huge, dick, but because I didn't actually know it was a party for me. I thought they were all hanging out, and they probably didn't want me to hang out with them. And then I found out later that it was a going away thing for me. And then I felt really badly because it was a very sweet and kind gesture. And my wiring is such that I miss these things. And so why I didn't say anything was because I'm wired to miss that. And because I didn't know that there was going to be something that needed to be said, certainly not for that length of time. And then the final reason is like one of the ways I got through undergrad was realizing how I work, how I'm wired. I am a creature of habit. And if I form good habits, then they're really easy for me to keep. Bad habits have the same behavior. And so if I show up to every class, then I'm in like Flynn. I'm going to do very, very well. If I skip one class, it will be very, very difficult for me to return. And so once I start being silent, it becomes very difficult to function again as a part of the community. It's much easier to just stay silent. And so sort of a victim of my own behavior or self-perpetuating cycle. As for where did I go? Well, that's a lot of time that I've been quiet. And so this wasn't, I didn't go into a cave and become a monk, shave my head. I still go see Jack at Wacky Barbershop and get the hookup when I'm in London. I wasn't always in London. I was in Palo Alto for quite a bit. I traveled around the US. I was in DC, and I can't even remember since it's been so long. I took a couple holidays. I was in Spain. That was amazing. In Madrid and Valencia. Valencia, interesting story. I speak some Spanish, not nearly as much as I used to, but in Valencia, you cannot help but to adopt the Catalan TH. CH, I said TH, the Catalan C. So you say gracias. And initially, when I started saying gracias, I sounded like, or felt like, I was making fun of someone with a lisp. So then I would sort of giggle to myself, because at times my sense of humor is sophomoric, and that's how it manifested. But you get used to it, and then you come back, and when I would speak Spanish to some of my friends in Palo Alto, they would like look at me like I was making fun of someone with a lisp because I was saying gracias now. In any case, so I certainly wasn't suffering, is my point. And I'm sorry, again, this really sort of amplifies what a jerk move it is not to say anything. And I want to acknowledge that and apologize for that, because it's a real jerk move to be completely fine and not echo that out to people who are deeply worried about you. And I don't require a defense, but I do want to say I also wasn't sort of feeding off of this. So I removed Facebook from my phone, from my iPad, didn't log in on my laptop. So if people were reaching out to me, it wasn't actually getting to me. It wasn't like I was getting the signal and ignoring it. I shut off the signal. So I do want to point that out. So I wasn't feeding off of some attention that's not my behavior or intention. when I first got quiet, my soul was a little bit beat up. So some things happened that I wasn't quite ready to cope with. So it wasn't all holidays in Spain making fun of people with lisps. I wasn't actually making fun of people with lisps. But beside the point, my soul got beat up a bit. Depending on how well you know me, you know that I have a bull mastiff who was being looked after for me in Hawaii, and Odin is an amazing dog. Odin got cancer, and I knew for a while that his days were coming to an end. He was a good boy. He loved me, and pretty much only me, which was fine by me. He was a perfect dog. Perfect dog. This amazing dog. And shortly after I got quiet, I understood that I had to go to Hawaii and lay him to rest. And I did. So I near my birthday, actually, I laid Odin to rest, and he suffers no more. And that was really hard. He was my hairy son. Although Odin thought of me as his daddy boyfriend, it was quite a complicated relationship. I had to clarify to him the boundaries multiple times, but he wasn't great with those. But he was great with everything else. In addition to that, there was some anniversaries that are very difficult for me around the summer, and all of these things sort of shut down my desire to be expressive, my desire to be vulnerable. I'm changing all that, though, which is sort of how this will wrap up. But so I went to Hawaii a few times. One of those times to lay Odin to rest, another time to close up business. So I used to have a life in Hawaii. I mentioned leaving Hawaii some time ago, and the party and things like that. But I used to have friends and loved ones in Hawaii, and that relationship changed some time ago. But officially closing up shop there and getting rid of a house and the car and the business of cleaning up and tidying up loose ends. There's some emotion with that, and I don't emotion out loud. I mean, I don't emotion out loud in social media space. It's very different than I'm not closed off and incapable of emotion, although some people might make that argument depending on the nature of the conversation. But I do process emotion, but I definitely process emotion quietly. So I've been around a bit. But I've had lots of positive things, and so I assure you I was not off somewhere sitting in a corner crying, sucking my thumb. Although there's nothing wrong with that if that's how one copes. And part of the way I cope is by getting quiet. And I hope you feel permission to cope however it is you cope. There's one more really important reason why I needed to go. I was thinking, so I would wake up and I would check Facebook and I would check Twitter and I would check Instagram. And I wasn't really consumed about likes. I wasn't, like, I post pictures and I love my pictures and I post my thoughts, and some people get them, some people don't get them. And that is completely cool. That doesn't really have a huge impact on my life. I am hopeful that people get some of my more meaningful thoughts, things that are important to me. And the hope there is that I've conveyed it in a way that helps people think about how they process information and how they process the world. And so to the extent that that's evident in a like, it was important to me to that extent. But beyond that, I don't really feel the need to be popular or unpopular. That's really not the thing that is a measure of happiness for me. But something interesting was happening, and I was seeing versions of this play out as we're investigating, like, Russia's behavior in influencing the elections. And it wasn't really what Russia was doing as much as what was happening, what I was doing. And I was surrounded by an echo chamber of people who think like me, people with resources like me, people who solve problems the way I solve problems. And in some cases, this is really good. At my job, this is amazing. I'm around some really smart people who help me to grow my thinking, who help my critical thinking skills, who help me to see things differently. But it's within a box, and it's within a construct that I understand, and it's within a framework that's very similar to their framework. And then the other side of it is this people from a very different world. And then instead of having a dialogue at the end of which we understood each other better, we have an argument, and I can crush them with my logic and never hear them. And they can spew whatever it is they think and feel and never hear me. And at the end of it, we don't understand each other better. We're more effective at hating each other. And it becomes some weird tool for separating and wounding and being nasty, or echoing things I already think. And so I'm not growing as a person. I'm becoming more effective at alienating people not like me. And that's concerning. It calls into question what sort of human I am, what sort of human I want to be, and how much I let something else influence that. And so it became really important to decide that for myself and to disconnect and to make healthier choices and not let the algorithm feed my mentality, but to feed my mentality with facts and process those facts and pay attention to the facts and verify the facts. That's all important to me. To the best of my ability, I've explained to you why I've gone, where I've gone, why I didn't say anything. I've apologized for hurting people, for concerning people. I want to apologize if I made people feel abandoned. This isn't all about me. I've been deeply concerned about people. One of the reasons I joined Facebook was because it was very difficult for me to stay close to people I cared about and understand what was happening in their lives and how I could support them, if I could support them. We all want to help people we care about, especially. And without Facebook, that can be very challenging, especially for an introvert who struggles to reach out at times, for a long period of times, granted. So I want to acknowledge I've been a lousy friend. I haven't been very supportive. I haven't been in touch. I haven't been dialed in to the important things happening in your life. And I regret that deeply. And I don't expect everyone to simply forgive me and be like, oh, that's just crazy, Brandon. I get that some people are just like, well, if it's me, then it's you too. And I regret that as well, because it wasn't ever you. It was really, I need to find calm and peace, and I'm not going to find it outside of myself. So I will crawl inside of myself. But I regret the toll that takes on important relationships. And so what now? I don't expect everyone to just welcome me back with open arms. I will keep a warm place in my heart for all of you. And if there's a warm place in your heart for me, then I am grateful. If there is not, then I understand and I wish you the best. And if there's something I can do to support you, I will. The thing that I learned from my time away is that I need to take an active role in trying to encourage other people. I need to take an active role in sharing my own struggle, which I hope will give other people permission to struggle, and sharing how I overcome my own struggle and how I get out of my own way. And to that end, you've picked up on this if you've been following along. Photography has been a huge help to me. photography quite literally forces me to change my perspective. And so I started vlogging about how that process works for me. And so the vlog is called Sifting for Soul, and it's on YouTube. I'm going to make it available this week. If you're interested, I'll also share it on this Facebook page. I've created another page, Sifting for Soul, where the primary content goes. And Sifting for Soul is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking a pile of dirt and throwing it on a machine and shaking the shit out of it and seeing if you can find some soul in there. Because there is an awful lot of dirt in internet land. And finding your juicy bits, finding your nuggets, finding that which is meaningful to you is arguably the only important thing. And so this is one of the ways that I'm trying to do it. And I want to share that struggle with anybody who's interested. So I'll link the videos here. And to the extent that you're interested, I'm interested in your comments. I'm interested in your feedback. I will actively participate more on Facebook. And I hope to hear about all the wonderful things happening in your lives. And if there are not wonderful things happening in your lives, I hope to hear about that as well. And as I sift for soul, figure out how to continue to evolve into the best version of myself. So, once again, my apologies. I've missed you. I've thought about you. I regret not taking any action on those regards.